Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Garrison Board of Education Annual Reorganizational Meeting, July 13th, 2021. We'll open the organizational meeting at this time and do the roll call. Jocelyn Apicello. Here. David Gelber.
Here.
Madeline Julian.
Here.
Courtney McCarthy.
Here.
Kent Schott.
Here.
Matt Spicer.
Here.
Sarah Tormey.
Here.
Can you please stand for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, I'm going to call up, we're going to do the administer of the oath of office to our newly elected board members. Just to mention, David Gelber was elected to a 3-year term effective July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. Madeline Julian was elected to a 3-year term effective July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. Courtney McCarthy, elected to a 3-year term effective July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. And Kent Schott was elected to a 1-year term effective May 19th, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. And Mr. Schott has already taken his oath of office. David?
I, David Gelber, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Board of Education member for the period from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you.
Yep.
If you would please sign here for me. Thank you, David. Congratulations. Madeline Julian.
I, Madeline Julian, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Board of Education member for the period from July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2024, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. If you would please sign here. Congratulations, Madeline. Courtney McCarthy.
I, Courtney McCarthy, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Board of Education member for the period from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Please sign here. Congratulations, Courtney. Okay. Just a moment. At this time, we will take nominations for the office of Board President. The election of Board President shall be by verbal public vote, and I will administer the oath of office to the newly elected Board President, who shall serve through June 30th, 2022. May I have nominations at this time for Board President? David?
I nominate Sarah Tormey.
Second.
Okay. Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Sarah Tormey is our newly elected president. Sarah, you want to come up? Okay.
I, Sarah Tormey, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Board of Education President of the Garrison Union Free School District for the period from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, according to the best of my ability.
Sign here. Right here. Congratulations. Okay. And next, nominations for the office of Board Vice President. Again, election of Board Vice President shall be by verbal public vote. The Board President shall administer the oath of office to the Board Vice President, who will serve through June 30th, 2022. May I have nominations for Board Vice President?
I nominate Courtney McCarthy.
Second?
Second.
Any additional nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you. Courtney is our new or returning Vice President. Forgive my handwriting.
I, Courtney McCarthy, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Board of Education Vice President of the Garrison Union Free School District for the period from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Courtney. Sign there for me, please. Congratulations, Courtney. And I'm going to turn it over to our board president.
Okay. Thank you all. I'm excited to serve you all for another year. And now I'm going to move on to the appointment of District Clerk, administer the oath of office. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby appoints Dusty Callow as District Clerk for the Garrison Union Free School District effective July 13th, 2021 through the organizational meeting of July 2022 at an annual stipend of $7,000. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Seconded.
Thank you. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions. Congratulations, Dusty. Thank you very much for offering to serve us for another year. All right, now we do the oath of office, right? Yes. Okay.
I, Dusty Callow, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of District Clerk for the period from July 13th, 2021 through the organizational meeting of July 2022, according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Okay. We are now going to move on to board appointment of school district officers. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approves the annual appointments of school officers for the period from July 13th, 2021 through the organizational meeting of the Board of Education July 2022. District Treasurer, Genevieve Mulher. Deputy District Clerk, Genevieve Mulher. Central Treasurer and Extra Classroom Activity Accounts, Genevieve Mulher. Deputy District Treasurer, Dusty Callow. School District Tax Collector, Joseph Jimick. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions regarding the board appointments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, now we move on to annual board appointments. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approves the following consent agenda of annual appointments for the period from July 13th, 2021 through the organizational meeting of the Board of Education of July 2022. I am going to read through them. I think it's important to see how many hats people in our district wear. External Auditor, PKF O'Connor Davies, LLP, School and Labor Attorney, Gervin and Falazzo. Receiver of Bids, School Business Administrator. Purchasing Agent, School Business Administrator. Deputy Purchasing Agent, Superintendent. Certifier of Payroll, Superintendent or his or her designee. Receiver of Service of Process, District Clerk. Receiver of Service of Process in the absence of the District Clerk, Deputy District Clerk. Civil Rights Compliance Officer, Superintendent. Affirmative Action Officers, Superintendent. District DASA Coordinator, Superintendent. District DASA Investigator, Principal. Title IX Complaint Officer, Principal. Title VI Complaint Officer, Principal. Title VII Complaint Officers, Principal. 504 Coordinator, Principal. Title IX, Section 504 ADA Compliance Officer, Superintendent. McKinney-Vento Liaison for Homeless Children and Youth, Jessica Van Decker. Fiscal Advisors, Bernard P. Dugan. Bond Counsel, Cornelia Cahill of Barclay Damon. ADA Compliance Officer, Director of Facilities. Records Management Officer, Superintendent or his or her designee. Records Management Clerk, Catherine Clark. Records Access Officer, District Clerk. Records Access Appeals Officer, Superintendent. District Residency Officer, Superintendent. Chief Emergency Officer, Superintendent. Chemical Hygiene Officer, Regional Safety Coordinator, Putnam, Northern Westchester BOCES. Asbestos Hazard Emergency Response Agency, Regional Safety Coordinator, Putnam, Northern Westchester BOCES. Asbestos Local Educational Agency Designee, Director of Facilities. OSHA Coordinator, Director of Facilities. School Pesticide Representative, Director of Facilities. Safety Coordinator, Superintendent. Supervisor of Attendance, Allison Ameg. Attendance Clerk, Catherine Mariani. Sick Bank Committee, Joint Members, Superintendent and Business Administrator. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions? Okay, now we move on to acting principal recommendation. Be it resolved, in the event that the principal of the Garrison School is not physically present in the Garrison School building on one or more days or portions thereof during the 2021-2022 school year, that the superintendent shall be acting principal for all short-term student discipline matters pursuant to Section 3214 of the New York State Education Law. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. Acting Superintendent recommendation. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby appoint Joseph Jimmick as acting superintendent in the absence of the superintendent for the 2021-2022 school year. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Annual board designations. We move on to the designate official bank depositories. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District designate the following banks as the school district's official bank depositories: Manufacturers and Traders, M&T Bank, TD Bank. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Designate official newspapers. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District designates the newspapers listed below as the official newspapers of the Garrison Union Free School District for the fiscal year 2021-2022. Putnam County News and Recorder, Journal News, LOHUD. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
I have a question. Is
Use your microphone, please.
I'm sorry. Highland Current isn't part of that?
Dusty, can you address this issue? The Highland Current does not collect money for their circulation, I believe.
Correct. Part of the requirement for being a newspaper of general circulation is that you have to have paid circulation,
Right.
and unfortunately, Highlands does not
Right.
meet that criteria.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Designate official bank signatories. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District designate the district treasurer or the deputy district treasurer in the absence of the district treasurer to sign checks for all district accounts except the extra classroom activity account. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Designate educational official, DEO. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby designates the superintendent as a designated educational official to receive court notification regarding a student's sentence adjudication in certain criminal cases and juvenile delinquency proceedings. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Designation of residency determinations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District designates the superintendent to make residency determinations. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Annual board authorizations. Signatory authorization for extra classroom activity account. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorizes the central treasurer or the deputy district treasurer in the absence of the central treasurer to sign checks for the extra classroom activity account. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Signatory authorization for district documents. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorizes the superintendent, board president, or board vice president in the absence of the board president to sign documents on behalf of the district as legally appropriate. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Be it resolved that the Board of we're on authorized mileage allowance. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorize remunerative allowance as per annual Internal Revenue Service mileage reimbursement rate to staff members who use their personal vehicle for school business with authorization of the superintendent. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Authorization to establish petty cash fund. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorized to establish the petty cash fund and authorizes the district treasurer to maintain the petty cash fund in the amount of $200. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Authorize association memberships. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorize the following associate memberships: New York School Boards Association, NYSSBA, Westchester Putnam School Boards Association, New York State Association of School Business Officials. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Move on to authorized transfer of funds. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorize the superintendent to approve line item budget transfers within a budget category and any budget transfers between budget categories according to limits prescribed by Commissioners Regulations Section 170.2 and Board Guidelines up to $10,000. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Authorized to sell, dispose of surplus property. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorizes the superintendent to declare as surplus and dispose of school district property which is unusable or has a value of less than $500. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, please pick up the microphone. Thank you.
With computers, with the computers that are old, how do we dispose them, or do we donate them to other organizations in need?
Sure. Joe will respond.
Once the computers are accessed.
You want to just pick up David's? That one doesn't seem like it's running. Thanks.
Once the computers are accessed, what happens is we accept bids from companies that will take them and make sure that there's no information left on them, and they certify that before they can be resold. That's what typically happens with them. So they're either recycled for parts or they're sold on, but the information that's on it is made sure that it's been destroyed.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. We'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Authorization of conferences, conventions, workshops. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby authorizes the superintendent to approve staff attendance at conferences, conventions, and workshops as appropriate. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Authorize acceptance of donations. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby authorizes the superintendent to review donations to the Garrison Union Free School District from the Garrison Children's Educational Fund, and be it further resolved that the superintendent shall recommend acceptance of such donations to the Board of Education for board approval as appropriate and allowed by law. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Do I have any questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Bonding of personnel. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorize the faithful performance blanket bond coverage for the following personnel as noted. District Clerk, $1 million. District Treasurer, Central Treasurer, $1 million. Deputy District Treasurer, $1 million. District Tax Collector, $500,000. Account Clerk, $500,000. Claims Auditor, $500,000. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Seconded.
Thank you. Do I have any questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Indemnification under Section 18, Public Officers Law. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby adopts the provisions of the Public Officers Law, Section 18, for the defense and indemnification of school district officers and employees. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. We now move on to annual agreements. Approval of annual agreement for on-site informational technology services. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the annual agreement for on-site information technology services with Edutech Ltd. for the period from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do I have any questions on this contract? Yes, Madeline, just pick up your microphone. Thanks.
What's any difference between this contract and last year's contract?
No, there is no difference. It's the same number of days, and I believe the same pricing, Joe, as last year. So there was no increase, and Madeline, I believe this is the 7th year that Edutech has been with the district. We're very pleased with their service.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Approval for annual agreement for occupational therapy services. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the agreement with Carolyn Catalano, MS OTRL, for occupational therapy services for the period from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Do I have any questions regarding this contract?
Just out of curiosity, how much do we
Can you pick up the microphone real quick, though? Thank you.
I was curious to know how much we actually rely on occupational therapy here.
David, I couldn't give you an exact number of hours, but it is minimal. A larger district may have a full-time occupational therapist on staff. We don't have that kind of need, so it makes sense. They charge us $110 per hour, $55 per half hour. I think really it's a very small percentage of our students who receive the service. Usually it's either once or twice weekly.
Do I have any other questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. Committee designations, appointments, and purpose. Committee on Special Education and Committee on Preschool Special Education. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District authorize the following membership for CSE and CPSE. Chairperson, Jennifer Muller. School Psychologist Chairperson, Jessica Van Decker. Physician, School Physician as requested. Parent Member, Surrogate Parent, Kim Sabatini. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? I had one. Was Kim aware that she is volunteering for this year again? Great. Just want to check.
I confirmed that with Jen Muller.
Great. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Annual adoptions and approvals. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby adopts the list of impartial hearing officers as listed on the New York State Education Department Impartial Hearing Reporting System website, and hereby authorizes the Board President or Board Vice President to formally appoint a hearing officer by signing a letter of appointment. Be it further resolved that compensation will be made according to the maximum hourly rate approved by the State Education Department pursuant to Section 44041 of the Education Law. May I have a motion, please?
Seconded.
Do I have any questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Adoption of policies and code of ethics in effect during previous fiscal year. Section 806 Municipal Law. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District approve the adoption of the Board of Education Policy Manual as currently constituted. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thanks. Anything you wanted to add on that, Courtney, as last year's policy?
I was just looking for when we're doing policy update.
It's not on here.
No, for the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
No, nothing to add. No.
Okay. Do I have any questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Establish capitalization and depreciation threshold for fixed assets. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District does hereby establish $5,000 as the threshold for reporting the capitalization and depreciation of fixed assets in accordance with GASB-34 regulations. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, could you explain this one to me?
I actually looked up GASB 34 today, but I'm going to let Joe explain this.
Every year, the district has to calculate the amount of depreciation on their fixed assets. So what determines whether or not an asset gets depreciated is the capitalization value, which is what is proposing to be set at $5,000. That is kind of a typical number for a capital asset to be depreciated. So essentially, it is calculated on a schedule, and the depreciation expense is put in our financial statements, and it's something that people can review.
Any further questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you, Joe. Okay. Establishment of annual rates of pay for substitutes and other personnel. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District adopts the rates of pay for the following positions for the 2021-2022 school year. School tax collector annual stipend of $3,000. Deputy district treasurer annual stipend of $1,000. Records management clerk, $18 per hour. School calendar coordinator, $42 per hour. Certified substitute teacher, $125 per day. Uncertified substitute teacher, $100 per day. Cleaner substitute, $18 per hour. Bus driver substitute, $18 per hour. Clerical substitute, $100 per day. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Do I have any questions?
Are these the same
Yeah, here's
rates
my-
as last year, or have they changed at all? Just out of curiosity. Sorry, David.
Sure. The first group under district personnel, this is the same dollar amount as last year, with the exception of record management clerk. We're proposing an increase of approximately $1 per hour. I think it was just about $17 per hour. Those are all extra responsibilities that people perform throughout the school year, sometimes in the summer. The substitute rates, the board may recall that we did increase them early last year. We were having some challenges recruiting substitute teachers, which is not unique to Garrison. There really is a shortage. Less and less people are going into the teaching profession. But we analyzed neighboring districts, Kent, and these rates that we established last year, which are the same rates that I'm recommending for the upcoming year, are much more competitive than they were in the past. So I think, for example, $125 for a certified teacher, $100 for an uncertified teacher. That is competitive, and if we have difficulty or we notice that other districts are increasing, I could potentially come back to the board. But right now, these rates, I think, are competitive.
Yeah, that was essentially my question, whether that's enough to get the substitutes that you need. Also, what is an uncertified teacher? How does somebody without certification get to be a teacher?
Good question. Under state ed law, David, a teacher can teach up to 40 days per school year without certification. Under COVID, that was increased to, I believe, 80 days last year. But then going forward, the maximum is 40 days. So many districts, I think the state recognizing that it's not always that easy to find certified people. If you have to use an uncertified person, there's a limit of how many days you can use the person.
And basically, you decide whether someone is capable of teaching. I mean, there's no minimal requirement for an uncertified teacher.
That is correct, but what we've looked for is at least a bachelor's degree and some level of expertise and some experience, even if it was a camp counselor, something that in their past gave them some experience working with children.
And I'm sorry.
Yes.
And in the past year, how many uncertified teachers did we use?
We used 4 or 5 regularly. And again, it was very, very challenging this past year.
Yeah.
So what we are going to do in the upcoming year is, and we did this last year, but again, there just weren't that many. There was a real shortage, but we're reaching out to all of the local universities that have teaching programs. And we will do our best to recruit certified substitute teachers for this upcoming school year, but it is good to have a backup if we can, and we will always go for a certified teacher first. That's going to be the first person in, but if you can't have a certified teacher, if your option is leaving a class uncovered or combining classes, and again, that last year that was impossible. We had to keep that social distancing. So we did rely on uncertified subs, and they, I must say, they really did a good job for us and helped us to get through the year. But in the year ahead, will be our first choice will be a certified substitute.
For the bus driver substitute, can you explain more how that works? Do we usually use the bus driver from the transportation contract? And what type of expertise do they need to have in order to be a substitute?
Another good question. You need your CDL license, and this is another difficult position to find. If you're fortunate, there could be some retired bus drivers living in this area if it's convenient for them. We maintain this, but I have to say, Madeline, we've had a lot of difficulty finding substitute bus drivers. There were many days where we were looking for one. Our backup is Orange County Transportation. They're a large company, and if they have ample number of qualified drivers. But we also do some of our own transportation, as I think you know, and we will try more actively to recruit. Maybe I'll put out I think I'll put out a request if anyone has had a retired bus driver, but there's a real shortage out there.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. We will now adjourn the reorg meeting. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby announces the conclusion of the annual reorganizational meeting of July 13th, 2021, and adjourns. May I have a motion, please?
So, seconded.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Checking the time. We did that in under an hour. Great job, everyone. Thank you. We will now move on to, right, I can just jump right in, right, Dusty?
Yeah, and I don't think we have to do roll calls.
Okay, we're going to skip the roll call because no one's moved. Great. And we're going to move on to accept agenda changes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, first, are there any changes to the agenda, anyone? Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accepts the agenda as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Oh, okay. Now we are back to President's remarks. I have a big note here. It says, begin with, ask everyone to speak into the microphones and speak clearly. So we'll start with that one now that we're 45 minutes in. So I hope everyone's enjoying summer. While I know we're looking ahead to the 2021-2022 school year, I first wanted to start by congratulating the graduates. We haven't had a meeting since 8th grade graduation happened. And our high school graduations. I got to attend the 8th grade graduation, and it was really wonderful to see our graduates on stage accepting their diplomas. So shows you the purpose of why we volunteer all our time sitting here. So as we turn our attention to the next school year, I recognize that there are probably going to be many questions within the community regarding COVID guidelines for the next year and how the capital project will impact the school experience. I'm confident that our administrative team along with our teachers and staff when they return in the fall, will ensure that the project does not impact teaching and learning. Carl and Joe have done a great job keeping the board informed about the project. I'm sure that will continue. I also just wanted to thank Mr. Michael Torty for his dedication to this project. For example, he was here yesterday on his vacation day doing a walkthrough of this space. So I appreciate all the time and energy that's going into it. I also think the beginning of the year is a good time to remind the community that if you have any questions or thoughts you wish to share, we recommend starting with the appropriate department. And this is true for questions about the capital project, what school is going to look like next year, and other things like curriculum. Curriculum questions are best directed to our building principal. Facilities questions are best directed to the director of facilities. It is also a great time to encourage our community to become involved in our school. While some of our board level committees that we will address in a little bit are limited to board members, many others we welcome and in some cases require community and staff participation. Our audit committee is one example. We currently have one audit committee member from the community, Mr. Lunan Pak. He's entering his second year of a 2-year term, and we would welcome another volunteer. If you are interested in participating in a board committee, please reach out to Dusty Callow, our district clerk. There will also be opportunities to volunteer for building level committees come fall. We welcome your involvement and your enthusiasm for our school and our district. And with that, I am going to just say I'm very excited to see the board all day Saturday for our board retreat. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Carl.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. I also wish everyone a wonderful summer vacation. Hopefully you're getting some good quality family time and some relaxation. I also want to just follow up on that congratulations to our 8th graders and add to that 100% of our students who participated in Regents courses received Regents credit. That means they passed the course, and the majority of them actually sat for the Regents exams. We have living environment and algebra Regents exams. This year was optional. Due to COVID, you did not have to sit for that exam, but most of our students decided to sit for that exam, challenge themselves, and we had a 100% passing rate. So we're proud of them, we're proud of the work that the teachers did with them, and we're proud to see them move on to high school with Regents credit, where they can move ahead into more accelerated courses in the years ahead. Also, COVID, I have received a few questions. I'm not going to get into too much detail now because I think it's a bit premature, but there was an announcement from the Department of Health that masks are now optional indoors. You may recall at the end of the year, masks were made optional outdoors on school property for students and staff alike. The Department of Health just recently made that optional for schools with summer programs. Now, Garrison does not have a summer program, and this does not mean that this will be in place for September, but this is aligned with the Department of Health guidance for camp programs and other summer school programs. So it seems like it's moving in that direction. The positivity rate in Putnam County is very low. It's hovering at 0.3%. It's been that way for 3 or 4 weeks, which is the lowest it's ever been during the pandemic. And 57% of our county residents are fully vaccinated. 62.5 have received their first dose. So that's well above the national average, and I think that's a positive thing for our immediate area. We'd like to see that across the nation, of course, because those areas that don't have that percentage of vaccinations seem to be struggling, particularly with the Delta variant. We'll track this, and if need be, we will reconvene the reopening task force. Last summer, that task force was invaluable in helping us make decisions about opening. So we had teachers, we had parents, we had administrators, we had our health people, our nurse Melissa, and really valuable input, our local BOCES health coordinator. So if need be, we will reconvene, but I think it would be wise to wait 3 or 4 more weeks to see what direction New York State moves in as far as guidance. With regards to the capital project, Sarah did touch on this. We have some really good news to share, and I'm going to invite Joe to jump in if I miss anything, but I'll try to give you a brief summary. We're way ahead of schedule when it comes to demolition and asbestos removal. In fact, today, 2 classrooms were abated that were actually originally scheduled to be abated during the winter break. So those were completed today. My estimate is about 90% of the abatement is complete. We still have to tackle the cafeteria and 1 hallway, but the majority of the elementary school is done, and that's important because abatement cannot happen when our children are here in school. So to get that out of the way over the summer, I think was fantastic, and we're very pleased with the progress there. I will also give a shout out to Mike Twardy, but also add the entire facilities team. They've been wonderful because to move ahead of schedule meant they had to move furniture more than we originally anticipated. That's why Michael did come in on his vacation day to facilitate moving classroom furniture. You see a lot of it right here around us in the gymnasium, and so we're kind of playing musical classrooms, moving stuff around, but getting that work done. Joe Jimick, I want to thank him. He's done an awful lot of work, and he arranged for Central Hudson Gas and Electric to be here at our weekly construction meeting that we have. They're involved. We're outside. The trenching for the electrical has begun. There are a couple of unknowns. We've removed a lot of the heating and ventilation units, the old units from elementary classrooms. We're still awaiting the new units. Some parts of the equipment have arrived, but other things have not arrived, and we're pushing very hard for our company that is providing the HVAC units. Train is the name of the company. We are waiting for them to give us a firm date, and we're in constant communication with them, trying to nail down that delivery date. Another unknown is we do need a transformer on our property. We talked to our architects, our project manager, and Central Hudson yesterday about that. We're trying to pin down the exact number of, help me with this, Madeline, kilowatt amperes, I believe, so kVA. That's the transformer that we need on property. That will power, we obviously need more power because of the nature of the system. So there are a few unknowns, but we continue to work on a daily basis. I think we're on top of things, and I'm very optimistic that we will be able to open in September. The building will not be beautiful. We won't have our floors complete. There may be some ceilings still open, but it will be safe. And the classrooms will be there for our children to learn in, and the teachers will have what they need, even though all the finishes will not be complete. Related to this, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Joe Jimick, we got a very favorable interest rate. To get this project off the ground, we had to borrow temporarily for this first year. And the bond anticipation note that was approved is a very favorable rate. Joe, can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So essentially, when you have a capital project, while the project is ongoing, you borrow short-term, you borrow bond anticipation notes until the project is complete, and then you convert to bonds for the life of the improvements, which is typically, in this case, it would be a 20-year bond. So we did have a auction for a one-year bond anticipation note, and the effective rate, the range was 0.284% to 0.35%, and so we're going to pay 0.284% interest for a year, which amounts to around a little over $16,000 to borrow $6 million for a year. So that's very favorable. It is a good time to be doing construction, a good time to be borrowing. This will also position us to be able to decide how much money gets put towards the pay down of principal before the end of the fiscal year in June. So this note expires at the end of June, and it will allow us to basically determine how much money we put towards principal reduction and how much we only need to pay $16 $100,000 of interest. Essentially, the way it works is it's a 1% coupon on the bond, but then they pay you a premium that offsets the interest cost. So the net interest cost is 0.28%, which is very favorable. And then based upon the cash flow and the remaining amount of work to be done next summer, that will determine how much is borrowed for the following year. So that's we have some good results there. And I want to echo what Carl said about our facilities team. We did have a number of rooms which were not anticipated to be done over the summer, and the contracting team that has been doing the abatement, Myers Contracting, has been doing all the abatement, and they've been proceeding very rapidly, and they have come back to us several times and said, can we do this? And Carl and I really feel strongly that the more that we can get out of the way now, the better off it's going to be for the students and the staff later on. So we did start abatement on a couple of new classrooms today that weren't originally anticipated, and those will proceed very quickly, and it's a lot better to do as much of this as we can that's not on a holiday break, because doing this kind of work on holiday breaks, while you can do it, is a little nerve-wracking, and it's more successful doing it now. So things are progressing very well. We have obviously there's always some challenges as we go, like with the transformer and figuring all that. But we have a good project team, a good group of contractors, and it's been a good summer so far. Yeah.
Agreed. Any questions?
Thank you for all the work you've been doing so far. This is great. All right, I'm going to keep us moving on then. Appreciate it. All right. Board communications and...
Sorry, can I ask a question about the first point?
Go for it.
Not about the facility. Regarding the mask guidance from the local Department of Health, districts still have jurisdiction over their own choice, right? If it's optional, that means the district has the option, just like the camps have the option.
That is absolutely correct, Matt. That's the minimum requirement to make it optional, but we certainly can require it as a school district if we choose to do so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Now we move on to board communications presentations. Discussion and assignment of board liaisons to Haldane High School and James O'Neill High School. Thank you all. I will start with all the board members. Thank you for sending in your interest. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this will move quickly. Kent has expressed an interest in being our liaison to Haldane High School. We can reach out to them and figure out exactly what that attains. I know, David, you had as well, but okay, thank you. And I would be very interested in serving as our liaison for O'Neill High School. I have spoken with their board president. They would like us to attend some of their meetings, specifically during budget season, so that we have a voice and an understanding of how our tuition dollars are being spent. And overall what their program is over there. And we can certainly reach out to Haldane and see if they're interested in the same. Okay, any other thoughts and comments on the liaisons? Okay, great. We're all set there, Dusty. Discussion and assignment of board liaisons to, I don't know how you say WPSBA, Westchester Putnam School Boards Association and NYSSBA. On this one again, Madeline has volunteered to be our NYSSBA liaison. Again, if anyone is interested in the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association, I know James did this last year. We're all so excited for this. You can put me down, Dusty. I'll do it for now until somebody else, I guilt someone else into it. Okay. Next up, we are going to, does anyone have any questions or thoughts beyond that? I'm going to keep us moving. All right, we're going to establish the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee and adopt the committee charge. I'm going to read the recommended action first. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby establishes the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee and hereby adopts the committee charge as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Do we have any questions, thoughts, or comments regarding the charge as presented?
My only question is, the role and responsibilities shall include the following. I just don't know if it should reference policy 7580 as a responsibility, like to honor it or follow it, just as an extra bullet point. I mean, the policy's already in there in the opening paragraph, but
Go into it.
I just don't know if we should be spelling it out or if it's just obvious that the committee should follow what's set forth in the policy.
Carl?
Well, Jocelyn, you make a good point. You know, we're all required to follow district policy, so yeah, it's true, it's not necessary. So if you'd prefer to eliminate that one phrase, yeah, I would agree. I don't think that's a problem at all.
No, I wouldn't say eliminate the phrase. I was just wondering if we would add a bullet point, actually.
Okay.
That just says, the role and responsibility of the committee shall include the following, you know.
Oh, I see.
In addition to assisting the mission statement, et cetera, of the task force, they would also, I don't know, follow policy 7580 or something like that.
These, you know, in general, we've updated. These can change as the needs of the district change and the direction we're moving in. So this is established. Of course, it's a new charge. We adopted a strategic plan and a policy. So we certainly have the ability to revise this. So sure, if anyone else wants to.
But does anyone else care or think it's necessary? I just noticed it's missing from, you know, but if you feel that it's an obvious thing, then why add extra words? Anyone?
I'm okay with keeping it as is, since it states it in the original paragraph.
Yeah.
And all board committees, I think it's expected that will adhere to the policy manual.
Then I'm fine, as long
But
as
it's also, I mean, it's not wrong to put it in either, but I think it's okay as it is.
Madeline?
So is it a big deal to just add the bullet, or will it place it on hold just for clarity, because we worked so much on that policy last year?
But it's also creating extra work, because now someone has to add it in, and we
could do it right now. Yeah, no,
She's going to do it right now.
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. Yeah, it's really whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, it's mentioned in the intro, and to add it is not an issue, right?
Matt?
Where did this language come from for the actual charge?
Well, part of it came from our board policy on equity, diversity, and inclusion, which is where I pull the specific language regarding the second sentence came from. It's from our policy. Dusty, where did the rest of it come from?
Is it?
We also researched some other equity policies from other districts to just gain some ideas.
Is it possible to add a two-word clause at this point? So in the sentence where it says, the Board of Education recognizes that disparities exist in the educational outcome of students based on aspects, could it say based in part on aspects of their identity? I'm just conscious of the politics right now that are raging around the country, and I think that might be a slightly more moderated phrasing that doesn't change the meaning of the sentence but allows for slightly more nuance.
So that part of the sentence I wrote, so it did not come from directly. The part that came from the policy begins with their identities and their contexts. So I think we could add in part, unless they're...
I don't know if people object to that.
Do you see where you went? Yeah, I just grabbed, but I took part of your sentence that existed and then added the definition. and then I added some extra words so they read like a sentence.
So Matt, I think just for clarity, do you want to?
So it's the sentence
Repeat.
that begins, the Board of Education recognizes, I think it's the second sentence. It says, the Board of Education recognizes that disparities exist in the educational outcomes of students based on aspects of their identities and their contexts, including but not limited to. And I think I'm asking if we could add it so it would read, the Board of Education recognizes that disparities exist in the educational outcomes of students based in part on aspects of their identities and their contexts, including but not limited to. I mean, it's not a foundational change, but I think it just leaves a little more room for more people to agree.
That's fine with me.
I'm fine with that language in the opening unless anyone else objects. Okay. And the bullet point, how did you want that to read, Jocelyn?
I hadn't thought that far. Let me think about that, but I have one other quick question for Madeline and David and Carl, you know, all being in the committee. Was there any kind of discussion that perhaps a student should be on, or was it more just getting them involved with some of the other work? I just am kind of maybe conflating multiple committee work. Do you guys remember?
I think there was some discussion of involving students.
Yeah.
But I don't think we were as specific as saying they
on a
should
committee.
be on the board committee. But we do definitely want to involve our students in part of the strategic plan and in other initiatives.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about in terms of the Matt suggestion, should that also go back into board policy 7580?
We can look at that. Again,
Policy.
that the sentence reads differently in the policy than it does here. It's the definition that I pulled just to make sure I had all the groups, all of that included, but it reads a little differently in policy. So yes, we can absolutely take a look at that in committee. The bullet point, do you have?
I mean, as long as it's, if we all think it's clear that the committee's work is to make sure that they're not going to be enforcing the policy, but just adhering to it, then we don't need an extra bullet point. I just want to make sure that it was,
Yeah,
you know.
they're all of our committees are advisory in nature anyway, which is why we don't have a quorum on them. So anything that would be put into action or the board would need to take action on would come back to the full board for us to review. So, and we would do so in accordance with our policies.
So then it's fine.
One would hope. So we're good? No bullet point. Okay. So if we're happy with this, I'm going to go to a vote. Madeline? Go for it.
One last question.
Yeah.
So every year, this committee needs to be recharged. Is this different than any other committee?
No,
Or
you'll see
with
the-
all committees, that's a typical.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So we have the rest of them on. This one's pulled out because it's new and we're establishing it. But the rest of them are later on the agenda, and we revisit and rewrite or Dusty did, rewrote and redrafted our committee charges to make sure that they have been updated and we aren't merely recycling and they reflect our actual work.
Okay,
Thank you, Dusty. Any other questions? Thoughts? Okay.
So Sarah, do you want to add that we're adopting the charge as amended since you did make changes?
Yes, okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby establishes the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee and hereby adopts the committee charge as amended. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay. Now we will move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Thank you. All right, discussion and assignment of board committee members and chairs. Okay, so here's what we've got. Probably didn't even bother to bring my list. So Audit Committee. I am happy to serve on this again. Kent, you volunteered for Audit Committee. Thank you. Jocelyn, you're excited for Audit again. I'm happy to chair this committee again. I really like audits. The Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee, our new committee. Jocelyn has volunteered, thank you, to chair this committee. Matt and Courtney have volunteered to serve on this committee. Facilities, we're going to keep facilities the same, and I also would like to point out that the members serving on facilities, I recognize this is a lot more work than perhaps some of the other committees, and so we have worked it out that you are serving on less other committees, and I appreciate your time for this. So again, we have Matt as the chair for facilities, Madeline and David on this one. Finance, Kent has volunteered to chair our finance committee. Madeline will be serving on finance, and I will be as well. Planning committee, Jocelyn has volunteered to chair this one again. And then we also have on planning Kent and David. Policy committee will remain the same as last year with Courtney chairing, Jocelyn and myself serving. Unless anyone has any changes to their requests, thoughts, things, we're good with this? Thank you all for your time and energy before the meeting, and we will move on now. Do you need anything else from us, Dusty, on that, or we're good? Okay. All right, discussion of revisions to board committee charges. So here you'll see all of the committee charges. I believe most of them are the same. Planning was one. Carl, did you want to speak to the planning changes?
Yes, most of them are just minor changes. So one example of that is facilities. We did not have a staff member as listed as a member, and we've had one of our teachers who has been a part of it, Coulter Young, and has been very valuable in his contributions to the facilities committee, and you need more perspectives there. So that was more of just correcting it for accuracy. Planning had more significant changes, and there was a lot of language in there that really talked about budget and facilities. And again, we have our finance committee that really focuses on the budget, and we have our facilities committee focusing on facilities. So Dusty and I went through these pretty carefully, and we removed, that's the language that we're recommending be removed. That, all of that planning around budget and facilities, because other committees are clearly working on that and focused on those aspects of the district. So this now really just reflects the work that the planning committee is doing, which again primarily is academic. The plans for, and that involves our strategic plan that we're working on with Jonathan Costa, and I think it's a more accurate reflection of the work that we're doing.
Do you have any questions or thoughts on the planning committee charge or any of the other committee charges as presented? There's also updates to the audit committee charge, which just removes the idea that we had an advisory committee, because we do not have that function in our school, in our district, excuse me. Okay.
Are we looking for faculty, staff, parent volunteers for the planning committee?
We have them, David, on the planning committee that's working, not the board committee, but of course the committee working with Jonathan Costa.
Right, yeah, that's right.
So I think we're covered there.
Okay.
Okay, do I have any other thoughts, questions, changes? Madeline.
So, for the finance committee, just following the bullet points that were removed from the planning committee, is there an added charge to make sure that we're coordinating with the new strategic goal coherence plans, also with the finance committee? I don't know if that's included in one of those, the 3 bullets there. I don't see it. So I guess in summary, what's removed from the planning committee, do we need to add a bullet to the finance committee, coordinating, reviewing, including the new strategic goals?
Madeline, I think you make a very good point, aligning the budget with our strategic goals. Yes, And I'm sorry I didn't pick up on that sooner, but I think that's a good suggestion.
So
Sarah, if
you're
you-
proposing adding a bullet point under the board charge, this would read align financial planning with the strategic plan while in development and when adopted.
Yes, because we have several initiatives. It's hard
Yeah.
to just call out one, but
Yeah.
the school strategic goals for the year.
Okay. Okay, can we make that change? Anybody else have thoughts on that proposed change?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Say budget aligned with strategic planning goals.
Okay, Dusty, just let me know if we need to bring that back, but I think we can get that done. All right. Any other thoughts, questions, or comments, or suggested revisions? Again, we can also, if at any point during the year your committee feels like they would like to change their charge, let us know, we'll bring it back and we'll look at it again. This isn't like carved in stone anywhere. It's just posted on the website and we can update it as needed. All right. With that, I'm going to move us along to follow-up discussion of electric vehicle charging stations. For this discussion, I'm going to turn it over to Carl and Joe for additional information.
Well, Joe has done all the work on this one. So let me just start by saying we've continued to research EV charging stations. Joe has done a fantastic job with this. We received some information just I think in the past couple of days, so we apologize that it got to the board late, but I think Joe will do a great job of summarizing where we are right now, and the board will then hopefully give us direction on whether or not you'd like to move forward with this project.
Thank you, Carl. So what we were able to do is we found some organizations to work with that would provide 4 vehicle charging stations in the upper parking lot that would be connected to our electrical service and would allow the district to charge for the power used by the charging stations. So included in it in the proposal is 1 year of a annual agreement with ChargePoint to provide the point of sale transactions and things that would take place on a charging station. We have pricing, which includes the installation of the stations, as well as providing it's actually 4 charging ports on 2 stations. There are incentives. There's 2 different incentives. One comes through the utility company, and the other one comes from NYSSBA. The NYSSBA incentive will basically cover the whole cost of the actual charging stations themselves, and then the rest of the cost is installation, as well as a small amount for the annual charge. If we get all the incentives from New York State and from the utility, the net cost to the district would be around $14,000 to have the 4 charging stations. So it is the reason why we're discussing it now is the contractor is currently mobilized on site that actually would do the installation and the electrical work. It actually would be our same electrical contractor, Hudson Valley, that we have on site. They would be a sub to plug-in stations online that has a state or a best value contract that they can operate under, which means that all of the purchasing requirements are met. There's a New York State contract for the actual charging stations themselves, and then there's another contract for the installation work. So what we wanted to do is bring this to the board and find out if this is something that we want to continue to pursue. If this is something that we want to do, this would not be considered capital project work because it was not part of the original authorization from the public. The board would have to decide to do this from the general fund. I think that we could find funds in the general fund to come up with the net that we would need in order to pay for this, and then the district would have to accept the incentives as they come in. So I don't know if this is something that we want to continue to pursue. It is likely that this would be the least expensive time to do it, because we do have project work ongoing, and the equipment that would be used to install this is sitting around us. So you know, that is a possibility, but you know, you are committing for parking spaces to be used for vehicle charging, which would not be used for other parking, and you know, you have to decide what you want to do.
Joe, may I ask for clarification? If we didn't have incentives, and if we waited and didn't run the electrical while we're doing the trenching now, what would the full cost of a project like this be? Just give us an estimate of that.
Right. So the incentives reduces the total cost by $36,000. So that the net the total cost would be $36,000 plus 14.
Okay, so 50,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what I will say is one of the incentives in here, for the actual installation, the 90% make-ready portion, which is for the facilities and the power connection and the trenching and all that. The estimate is here at a 90% incentive. You know, realistically, it could go down as low as 50%, and then that would bring the cost up to around 18,000 net. So that, you know, I would say the NYSSBA incentive is pretty set, and there's no issue there. But I had heard that depending upon the utility, we might not get the 90% incentive, and we might get the 50%, and then the net cost would be around 18,000.
Really appreciate all the work you put into this and all the thought. I guess my question boils down to, does this get us closer to the electrical buses? And the reason I ask is, the genesis of this idea was, I thought electrical buses, because we use buses and gas. If we're without that piece, this feels a little bit more like we're building a charging station for the town, which is not something on a larger scale I'm necessarily opposed to, but I'm just not convinced that that's like the role of a school. So if it doesn't, so I guess my first question is, does it get us closer to the buses, which is like actively making something better that we're currently not doing well, which is using buses that we don't have to be using that are harmful to the environment as opposed to less harmful. If it does get us closer to the buses, then that's important. If it doesn't get us close to the buses, then I guess my follow-up question is, what does it do exactly for the school? I understand on a larger level it creates a charging station, which there are a million arguments for more broadly, but how would it be used? How would it function? Would it turn into essentially a charging station for the public? Would teachers use it? Is the goal that it would incentivize more teachers who have electrical cars to apply for jobs here? And is there a long-term vision for if electrical charging stations became more common, and let's say, for example, there was one next to the school in the year 2030, is this an easy thing to get rid of if it became redundant and people no longer need an electric charging station? Similarly, inverse, is it an easy thing to expand? Like, if it turns out in 2030 that we have demand for 50 charging stations, is this going to be kind of rendered moot? So I guess, does this get us closer to buses? If not, what role does it serve? Is it easily contractible? Is it easily expandable? Thank you again for all of the work you're doing.
As far as the buses, it does provide for the vans. In addition to the buses we use a number of vans. And what I would say is the capability to charge a plug-in hybrid van or a electric van in the future is totally capable. The charging infrastructure for a 66 passenger large bus is a much different proposition as far as the amount of electrical service that's required to do that. As far as expanding the infrastructure, I would say that it's possible that that the amount of cost to add additional stations would be less than what they are from a greenfield now, because essentially you could use some of the existing conduit and do more charging stations on the end, but you would probably have to upgrade some wiring or add additional, and there would be some cost there. We have a number of vans that are maybe halfway through their life, and I would say when those vans are at the end of their life, I think it would be a good thing to look at the options that are available to the district as far as an electric vehicle replacement, because I can only imagine that as things continue to become more common, the choices and the variety of things that we can use for that would be much greater.
Ken, you had a question as well?
Yeah, I mean, and some of my questions are similar to Matt's. I guess my first question would be, would this be restricted during school hours? Would the public be able to go charge their car while kids are 5 feet away on the playground?
Yes, it could be restricted towards specific either staff or our fleet during the school day. All of that can be programmed into the software as to when it could be used for the general public. Like it won't show up on the ChargePoint app during the day when it's you can't use it.
And Carl, do you know if there's any demand from the teachers right now? Because like my office doesn't have EV charging stations. Most of these cars go fairly long way. People charge at home. Is it an incentive? Is it a benefit for teachers really, or is this just more of a thought toward the future with the vans?
Good question. Joe and I had a lot of discussion about this. Most EV cars have a range 150 to 200 miles. I think most of our staff, can work with that and wouldn't depend on having a charging station here on property. I don't think you're doing it necessarily for staff. Going back to Matt's question, does it get us closer to EV buses, EV vans? And I think the answer to that is if the state, if the federal government incentivizes EV like they are doing in California. In California, I read about a program that they subsidize the cost of electric buses to bring that cost down where it's almost the same as diesel buses. If that were to happen, then you're going to see more and more EV. And so it's not fully, I think we can't predict. I do believe we're going to move in that direction, but we can't say for sure. I think if we start turning over our fleet, this will be a tremendous convenience for us. And I think it would almost be a necessity. Even if there are other stations, around Garrison, I think just having it on our property will be a big advantage. And doing it now, we are able to do it at a fraction of the cost. Now, these incentives that exist right now, they may still exist 3 years from now when we're starting to hopefully make a move to, towards more EV buses and vans. So there are no guarantees, but I think circling back to your question, I think we are doing this looking ahead 2-3 years, but we may get some staff members that take advantage of it. But I think the cost just hasn't dropped enough yet.
And I'm sorry, you talked a little bit about this, but is there a way to kind of lay a foundation of infrastructure in now and still get incentives without building out the whole project, so that and in 2 years you want to turn your fleet over, as a part of that, budget process, you say we're going to buy these electric vans, we're also going to install 2 or 3 charging stations specifically for those vans. We could lay in some electrical trench work or infrastructure that might not be as expensive as the entire project. I guess, is there a way to future-proof this to kind of say, we don't want to build out EV stations and we don't have the vans today. We want to have the infrastructure in place in 3 years, 4 years, so that we can more easily do it when we get the vans.
So for me, the numbers really tell you the story, right? And correct me if I'm wrong on this. So right now what we have is an electrical contractor ready to do this work. If we didn't get the incentive, it would cost $50,000. So that's not including if we didn't have the electrical contractor ready and prepped to do the work. So if we decide to do this later on, it would be more than $50,000 to get these 4 charging stations. With the incentives, they might be here, they may not be here. What we're seeing is that NYSSBA, they run out of incentives. New ones may come up, but right now we have an opportunity to take $50,000+ and put in all of that infrastructure for $14,000 for the district, so for them to be ready in the future. And we already have vans, right? So we know that once our vans are at end of life, we would consider electrical vans. So for me, it's a no-brainer going from $50,000+ to taking advantage of the time that we have now here with a contractor with already the prep work and paying $14,000.
When are the vans at end of life? Because I think that's part of the story we need to tell. If we build charging stations and they sit out there, we all know that we're going to put our vans, we're going to do that in a couple of years. The public just sees charging stations, and not everybody in the public is going to want public charging stations in a school parking lot. So I think that's part of the question.
Yeah, my concern is that we have 3 or 4 charging stations sitting unused for half a decade, and then I think you make a very strong point. If they're going to be used for electric vans, and if we can't get them for this price when the electric vans are ready, then I agree it's a no-brainer. But if the electric vans aren't coming, and if they're not going to be used in the meantime, and if we can get them for the same price when the electric vans do come, if they come. So there are some ifs along the way that I think make it a little bit less clear to me, but I take the point for sure.
Agree, yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, obviously, so it's like we could do it now for this price, we know that. I just think it's more of a question of, is it responsible, if we don't, knowing more like when are the vans coming up, when would we get them and bring electric vans in to use these stations?
David, you've been waiting. Do you have a...
Yeah, just to be clear, are you saying that this infrastructure is incapable of supporting electric buses?
A full-size electric bus, yes, it couldn't do that.
Couldn't do that?
No, not at all. Because the amount of batteries and the amount of charging voltage and amperage that you need to charge a 66-passenger bus is significantly more than a regular passenger vehicle or a small van. It's the reason why the electric 66-passenger buses are so expensive is the sheer amount of batteries that are in there. The battery pack itself costs well over $100,000 just for the battery in one of those buses, because there's just so many cells in order to move that much mass.
So if we were to move to electric buses, how would they be charged?
You would have to build, if you're talking about 66-passenger buses, you would have to build much larger versions of what this is. This will charge 11-passenger vans and cars. That's what this is. This is a level 2 charger that would be able to charge all of the regular vehicles that people would buy at the dealership. But the The large buses is a much bigger infrastructure commitment in order to charge them.
But we intend to stay with large buses for the indefinite future, I assume, right?
Well, we do use large buses, and we also use vans for a lot of our special education and private school runs. So we have our own small fleet of vans that we use. Go back to your question as to when we would replace these vans. Most of the vans have at least 5 more years of life left in them. They don't work very hard for the district on snow days. They sit here, so they don't rust out like a lot of other vehicles that we have do. So they still have a number of years left before they need to be replaced, and I wouldn't recommend to the district to replace them just for the sake of electrifying.
I had a question regarding, last time we looked at this, there was a potential for revenue by using the charging stations and opening them up to the public during non-school hours. We would then collect the money that came in that would both offset the electrical bill for the charging stations, but also generate revenue. Do we have any idea from the numbers as to what that would look like?
We don't necessarily have a projection. It would depend a lot on how much it actually gets used. I mean, because it is a pay-as-you-go model. So I don't know that it would be set up to generate revenue and to make sure that we don't give away the district resources and funds to either the staff or to the public. So that's why it has a affiliation with ChargePoint, so that you can use your phone app or your credit card to be able to sign in order for it to start charging your vehicle.
Isn't there a way to find out, if we don't have any idea what the public demand would be, if this is a potential revenue source, isn't there some way to actually get some data on what the demand would be in the community?
I would say that there would be, and we can talk to the partners that have developed this quotation for us to help us with that, but I don't have any of that to share with you right now.
What is our deadline for this? Because I know the electrical contractor is here now, and they're not preparing to stay with us forever. So there is a time is of the essence on this decision, is my understanding.
Well, I would say that the quote that was provided as a part of this work represents. Let me just see here. So the electrical contractor's work represents of the total $28,000. That's the electrical contractor's portion. That includes all of the trenching and as well as the wiring, the connection to our utilities inside the building, and the installation of the charging stations, as well as the parking protection, the bollards and things that would be required to make sure that people don't run into the charging stations. So that includes all their work. I would say that the 28,000 number is recognizing that they're on site. Do I know what the difference between the 28,000 would be and when they would not be here? No, I don't.
Well, it would be higher, I'm guessing. And I think, Kent, you got to this question of like putting the trenches in, but without putting the charging stations in, but then we don't get the incentive. Just
correct.
Clearly.
Would this revenue come from the teachers, or would this be a situation where we would allow them to charge for free?
We can't allow them to charge for free.
Okay. Yeah, we wouldn't allow them to charge for free, because that would be considered a gift.
But the revenue-wise, like the cost to charge a car is not.
It's not.
It's pretty small, correct?
Yes, it is small.
Is there a way to build the big ones that you were talking about with David, and to sort of do an intentional, conscious policy where the school says explicitly, we are building charging stations that can serve a full bus, and we are out loud committing to buying electric buses when our current buses expire, so that there's sort of a clear cause and effect, or are those unbuildable? I may have missed something in the exchange with David, but like, is there a reason we can't build the big ones?
There's a couple reasons. One is there isn't incentives like there are for these currently for the large vehicles. There isn't a program in place that has incentivized it. What the only installations of these large buses and the charging stations has been to in New York State has been to very large operators, and it has been a way for the bus manufacturers to kind of get good public relations and show that they're working on the environment. So they heavily discounted the units to these large operators so that they could use them. There isn't a large-scale incentive in New York State for these buses yet, and so that there also is an incentive for the charging stations of that size either. When there is, would be a better time to look at building those out.
We also don't own our buses currently. We just lease them through the company. So provided they will continue to give us buses that function.
Right.
So they're not going to die on us.
We have also had preliminary discussions with the owner of Orange County about the prohibitive cost of both the units themselves and the ability to charge and service them, because the other issue is the range of these vehicles is short. If you are not near a place that can service them, you might have to tow them to get serviced if they ever need service. So what the rough back of the envelope said is that he told me is, well, you would need to triple your contract on a 66-passenger bus.
So I have two points about this. One is, are you saying that the technology of the electric bus technology is still early enough along that it really isn't a viable alternative for school bus purposes?
I think it is. The technology is along enough, but the incentives that offset the cost of the technology isn't there. So it's not a priority for New York State to have school transport of using electric vehicles. So because it's not a priority and there isn't incentives, the cost of it is prohibitive.
Which brings me to my second point, which is that I'm pretty sure that there is a piece of the administration's climate program that is designated for electric buses. And it might be worth, and I'd be happy to volunteer for this, to be in touch with Maloney to let him know that we are very interested in moving to electric buses, and to see whether there's anything he can do or tell us about support at the federal level for electric buses.
I don't think that's going to help this decision, I think, that Joe's asking for tonight, though, although I think it's a really good idea, in the sense that the electrician is here, we are getting a great deal because they're on site, and so do we feel like we would like to move forward soon because of the timeliness of the electrician being here?
I'm just trying to figure out, it's a great deal, but it reminds me a little bit of when I am on foot in Manhattan and I walk past a parking spot and I'm like, God, if I only had my car, that would be a perfect parking spot. It's free and there's no alternate side till next Monday. But I don't have my car. So it's a great deal, but what are we going to use it for? If we can't use it for full-size buses, and we don't even have full-size buses, it's a great deal, but like, just to look back for 30 seconds here, the genesis of this was Crystal Ford saying, wouldn't it be great if our district changed to electric buses? And a lot of people said, yeah, that's a great idea. And now there's a little bit of mission creep, maybe. I have a question mark at the end of that, but it feels like we've lost sight of what we're trying to do, which is what you just brought up, David. And now we're saying, well, we can't get the electric buses, but maybe we could just build a charging station for 4 vans. I'm putting that as negatively as possible on purpose to be a little bit provocative, but I do just want to make sure that we know why we're doing this and keep in mind our actual goal, which was to convert to having electric buses.
Going back to the schedule, do you need a decision right in this meeting, or do we have 1 week? We want to know how much time we have to make a decision and before we lose the contractor, right? Is it now, or do we have a week?
Yeah, what I can do is find out some more information from the contractor. You know, I understand that this price is based upon you doing this work now. If you have to remobilize later to do this work, what does that mean to you? And then I can give you that information, and then that might help the decision. But you are committing towards infrastructure that everyone is going to see. There are going to be four parking spaces that are designated to be able to charge electric vehicles, and there are some people that might be excited about that, and some people that really won't. So, you know, that's a decision that the board needs to make.
To me, because of the numbers and the time that we're in, it's a no-brainer, and being prepared for the future. So forgetting about the buses, New York City is actually already working on school buses and testing a project out. That's the future. So we have the opportunity to put in the infrastructure, get the incentives, and save at least $40,000, avoid $40,000 for the district if we do it now. But we can, I guess that's
I want
my
to just
take.
point, I feel the same way as Madeline in that these incentives dwindle often. And to be able to access them now, especially given the electrical quote, this seems like the right time to have charging stations not only for future vans, but for people who drive. Like, it's not just for I don't think it's just for our school. I mean, we're providing this for our families, parents, teachers, faculty, staff, community as well.
But they're not going to need it if they have an electric car.
How do you know that they
Well, if
won't
they're in
need
the
it?
community, they'll charge at home, and they're not going to need to charge at the school.
What if they have 2 cars at home and only 1 port, and their husband's charging it, so they need to charge when they get to school?
I mean, I take the point.
I mean,
but
there's lots of
this is what I mean by
hypotheticals.
this is what I mean by mission creep. I mean, I take the point that like we may help somebody's Tuesday, but I just don't know. Like, I guess my original question, I'm still not fully clear on. Will these be able to be part of the mission of charging
Yes.
buses in 5 years?
Yes, because a lot of our fleet is vans.
Right.
We do the vans. I have a question on that though, but by the time we need to replace our vans, will the technology around how these vehicles are charged have changed to the point where we've put in ports that we can't use for the vans that are going to be bought in 5 years?
Yeah, that is a possibility. Yeah, that is a possibility because if you take a Tesla, for example, right, that has this supercharging capability. That's not what this is, right? So you can charge a Tesla on a port like this, but you can also charge a Tesla or some other vehicles like that. The DC fast charging is at a higher rate than this will support. So this can charge everything, but there are some vehicles out there that charge at a rate faster if it's available. So could the technology change in 5 years? Yes, could.
I just feel as if we're making a decision and we're kind of half blind on some of the key questions here. Cost questions, but also there ought to be a fairly simple way to find out what the community demand is for this in advance. It's not that hard. I mean, there are people who do this for a living. I mean, there are people who marketing people who can figure this out, and this may even be like something that a college could do for us but I mean, we should be able to know this. I mean, because we have no idea whether people in Garrison need to have this service or not, and we should be able to find that out.
Well, I would also propose that we're not doing this for the people of Garrison, we're doing this for teachers until we have the vans. Because people of Garrison aren't going to use these stations to charge their cars. They're going to charge them at home, like Matt said. It would be a very edge case. So I feel like we're buying something for 5 years from now when we don't know what we're really going to need in 5 years.
So you're sure that there's no community demand for this?
I would be shocked if you saw cars up there in a midsummer's night charging their vehicle. I mean, you would have to not have electricity at home.
That's what I mean. When I say people aren't going to use it, I don't mean people don't have electric cars. I mean anyone who has an electric car is charging it at home, and if they live in Phillipstown, then they live well within 200, and increasingly these cars have a range of up to 400 miles. So it's just like, it's a pretty specific scenario in which a Phillipstown community member is going to need the Garrison school to charge their car. If they did, that would be a great community service. I just don't quite see why they would. But we could need it as a school. And that's why I keep coming back to this question of like, are we going to use these stations? When I say we, I mean teachers or vans or buses.
If we are going to move on from this discussion and table it until another night, first of all, I will point out that we do not have other regular meetings currently scheduled for this, so we will need to look at options for that as well. But one of the things I would like to see is a price for getting the actual wires in the trenches, even if we don't put the stations in. I'm guessing then we don't get the incentives, but it'd be nice to know the price because we have the trenches open right now, right?
Right, it would be 28,000.
It's just 28,000 without the incentives, so.
Yep.
That could be something where that's part of that's open now, that's happening now. Then we have the electrical stuff ready to go for when we get the vans, and then we hook up the stations that are the right stations for the right vans in 5 years. Again, the electrical stuff is a little over my head, I'm sorry.
So I'm curious, how do we address the other thing that's being brought up, which is the demand? And like you're saying, if it's our staff, then would they respond? I mean, I would hate to do this because everything we're talking about is like hypothetical. Would you do this if this? But would they respond to an email from you, Carl, that if you were to say, how do you feel about charging stations? I don't know if their responses should necessarily, how much they would sway our decision, but like if it's for them, and over the next 5 years, would you be happy to have a charging station? Sorry, we have to text.
It's okay. I mean, or honestly, they might be upset that they can't use 4 parking spaces in the lot now.
Yeah, I think that is a real concern, that you're going to assign.
I noticed on the quote that there's a sign that costs $250 times 4, but that says, EV parking only while charging. So they can be parked in when they're not, like, how does that even work, right? And also, if anyone looked at the map of where they're proposed, I mean, that's also obviously something that we'd have to talk about, right?
Yeah, the reason why that they're there is the proximity of the electrical work that's being done. And that's, if we move them to the back, the amount would be more.
Yeah, we should potentially, I don't know if the electrician would be willing to say how much that extra trenching would be, but.
There's other things there though too because of the water line. Isn't there something else you would have to trench through if you went by the pavilion?
I think there is a capability of doing that, but there's more restoration work potentially of the parking lot. I mean, it's just cost.
Okay.
So going back to the numbers again, so option 1 will be this $14,000. Option 2 would be $28,000 just the trench. Now, is there an option that if we go with a $14,000 because we get the incentive, it's $10,000 cheaper, and then we have to upgrade those stations for the vans later on, is it feasible? So we end up is that something feasible? So we end up paying less now for that possibility later.
It's hard to say what would change between now and the future. Most of the things that we have been talking about, the more capable vehicles can still charge on the old stuff. But, you know, you just wouldn't be able to charge to the maximum capability of like a Tesla or something else that does supercharging. Could the service be increased in order to do supercharging? I think it is a significant increase in the amount of amperage that's required. I don't know that you could do that with the same wires and stuff that you put in.
Related to the vans and just the charging, like 5 years from now, might there just be a scenario where you don't even need advanced charging? You can just plug these vans in, like out in the outer parking lot. I don't know what's out there, but I'm just curious. Like we just don't know. I feel like technology is really advancing. We might not need these things for the vans in 5 years. Is the other thing. Like you can plug your Tesla in the garage. In 5 years, can you plug your van in over in the corner without a specific charging station? We don't know that, right? Obviously, we don't know that because we can't see the future. But
yeah, I guess to sum it up, I think if you moved forward, it's a nominal fee. Just running the electric would be $28,000 versus $14,000. You run the electric, you have the stations. But I think we have to all understand that we may see 4 spaces empty this upcoming year, I think for sure. And you may get some criticism over that. The following year, you may see some staff start to move to, electric cars and take advantage of it, which would be great. But even we may not be there yet. It may take 2 or 3 years. And I think the district itself, I agree with Joe, I think you're probably 4 to 5 years before we're purchasing electric vans. So, we may get criticized, the money is, but this is financially, it's a really good opportunity, but again, I think it may be tough to justify even $14,000 when you have empty parking, and maybe people will be upset that, the 4 spaces closest to the building in the upper lot are not being used. So, it's a really difficult one. Joe and I have been back and forth on this, and there's no right or wrong. I think it's a judgment call. There's a lot of risk involved, and that's why we brought it here. This is the tough decision, and the board, you raise very good points, and I think maybe we table it for now and come back to it.
I'd like to suggest tabling it. I will look at the upcoming agendas and see how we can fit this in. Joe, thank you so much for the drawings, the research, talking to all these groups. One final question. You can park a regular car in this parking space, right?
You can, but the point is that it's supposed to be dedicated towards...
It's supposed to be, but...
Yes.
We also have a policing issue then.
And it's our property, so...
Okay.
Thank you very, very much for this.
This was a good discussion, guys. Thank you all for your thoughts and dropping this in, and we'll look to add it quickly.
Yeah, if there are other questions, please send them to me, and we'll try to answer any of them that we can get. But the reason why we brought it to your attention is because we just got the information, and we know that there was a lot of excitement about this earlier, so we wanted to share it with you as soon as we got it. But we'll get the answers to as many of your questions as we can.
Sounds good. Okay. Now we will move on to accept minutes. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby accept the minutes of the regular meeting of June 16, 2021, and the minutes of the special meeting of June 27, 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Any questions on the minutes? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Thank you. We will now move on to personnel items, our consent agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District, upon the recommendation of Carl L. Albano, Superintendent, does hereby approve the items of the personnel consent agenda as presented. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Carl, are any of these, before we move on, that you wish to speak to?
Just quick summary. There are 4 substitutes here that did work with us this past year that are available next year. I want to emphasize you would be approving per diem subs, which is as needed. One of them is a fully certified teacher. The other 3 are not. Sometimes we need subs, though, to fill in for clerical and aid positions and other positions, so it is helpful to have them. We plan to work hard over the summer to bring more substitutes to the board for approval prior to September. There's a few appointments that are like additional responsibilities for people. For example, Kathy Clark last year served as records management clerk. There's a lot of updating of records that needs to occur. She actually does some work over the summer and after hours, so that's just an hourly rate. The athletic director, Patrick Beckley, just does an outstanding job in his role as phys ed teacher, but also with our athletics program, with our modified sports. So I do recommend him, give him a strong recommendation. He does great work. Then there are some summer services for children with IEPs. That is required. So we pay $41 an hour, which is a very reasonable rate. But we're happy for those people who are qualified, highly qualified, and willing to do that work for us over the summer. Of course, Cecilia, our videographer, is on here, and she started with us in the spring. And basically, that's letters A through H. And then I'll turn it over to you for I.
And then we also have the amended superintendent's contract, which provides the salary that we've discussed for 2021-22 school year, which we believe is more in line with our neighboring districts in Putnam, Westchester, and Rockland County. While our district still remains in the bottom quartile in terms of superintendent salaries, we feel this one-time adjustment recognizes that we have an experienced superintendent who was able to step into the roles of principal for 3.5 months last year, as well as business administrator in January, and lead us through COVID and keep our school open. We also appreciate your willingness to sign on for another year. So this will extend the contract. So we have another 3 more years. I'm very excited about that. So if we have any questions on any of the items on the consent agenda, thoughts, comments, please let me know. Okay. No questions. We're going to move to a roll call vote. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Nays? Abstentions? Okay. Next, we have new business. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the new business items as presented. May I have a motion, please? So moved. Second. Okay. Carl, do you want to speak to any of these before we move on?
Sure. In this category, we're asking the board to approve our 2 high schools. Those are the 2 choices, O'Neill High School and Haldane High School, that we offer all of our 8th grade graduates. There is a contract for each, and the rates are there. Hopefully you had a chance to review that. We have, I'm going to turn it over to Joe. There are a few business-related agreements. We have some consultation for our business services. Joe, you may want to speak to the MAG for stack services.
Yes, so MAG is a consultant that we use for special education, high-cost special education services, as well as Medicaid services, and the business office also uses them to help train the payroll position as well. So on an as-needed basis, our payroll clerk can call and ask questions as needed, and that's what MAG does for us.
Thank you, Joe. Moving on to H, we're asking to approve once again an agreement with our school physician who's been with Garrison for quite some time, Dr. Gergely. He's a local pediatrician and does know our community really well. Also, we're asking the board to approve once again work with April Francis, our equity consultant. And then there is the declaration of emergency that I'm going to go back to Joe to explain more about our roofing issue that we discovered.
Yes, as of Wednesday the 7th, we experienced a roof leak that is over the drama room, as well as some of it leaked into the principal's office. There is a section of roofing that is adjacent to the original building, a part of the 1951 addition. There's a roof there that is actively leaking. We have done some additional research, and the roof actually appears to be under warranty, but we haven't had a visit from the warranty department as of yet. But we are asking the board to declare this an emergency so that we can take care of it both with SED and with the ability to do the work. It is not part of the capital project scope. The roofs that are due to be replaced are on the lower section of the building, and this was not slated to be replaced. It was tested in a roof scan, and it showed as if that it was still a good roof, but there is some definite water infiltration that we have identified from a failure in the section of the roof. So we are looking to. We've also had a visit today from NYSSBA, our insurance rep, to review the situation, and we initiated a claim with them last week. So we have a number of things in the works. If for some reason it's not covered under warranty, we would use the national cooperative that is listed in the resolution in order to make any repairs or replacements.
Any questions on the roof repair?
Joe, would you also please provide a summary of the Edutech agreement that we're asking the board to approve?
Yes. So we have worked with Edutech and with Tetra Tech to develop a solution for the cameras, the phone system, the door access controls, and that what has been done here is a proposal is developed using some national cooperatives, which meet all of our requirements for bidding and purchasing, and it is purchasing equipment and installation from Edutech to install all of this technology and security related infrastructure as a part of the project. So this covers all of the design elements that Tetra Tech had indicated that was needed for the building as far as cameras and access controls. Carl and myself and Mike Tuerty and the principal all have reviewed these items that are included in here as far as things that we needed and we wanted as far as coverage for cameras and phones and all of that. So this is under the initial budget that CalG had determined, CalG and Tetra Tech had determined that this stuff would cost, and it's with a provider that
is going to be on site all the time with us. So it offers some advantages as we start using the system that we're getting from Edutech, a contractor that will be here 2 days a week, for the foreseeable future. So we see a lot of advantages to accepting this proposal and issuing a purchase order to get this equipment.
Any questions on that? I have one. And the timeline for this, once we issue the purchase order, do we anticipate they'll be able to put the new system in place?
It's going to be
start this summer?
They are going to be putting in some of the infrastructure and the wiring, but it will take some time for the actual equipment once they order it to show up. So I anticipate that a lot of the work that they will be doing will continue into the fall. Yes.
Thank you. And then the one thing I would like to speak to is the internal audit report, unless there's other finance things that you wanted to address. Okay. So as last year's chair of the audit committee, and I will invite Jocelyn and Matt to jump in here if they have other thoughts. I first wanted to thank the board for supporting the internal audit last year. We are not required by law to perform an internal audit. This was something that we decided to do because it had been a number of years. I also want to thank the business office and our district clerk, Dusty, for providing the necessary information to allow the internal auditors to perform the audit. That was a lot of time and gathering of documents, so thank you for that. As you may recall, the last time we talked about the internal audit, the committee had asked, following the risk assessment, we'd asked the internal auditor to take a look at payroll and purchasing, specifically for the 2019-2020 school year. And if you read through the report, if you have any questions, I have the report with me. We can try as the committee to answer them. I'm sure Joe can. But what you'll see is a number of the areas that were identified as being during the risk assessment and during the audit. Joe and his team have already begun correcting and putting in new procedures, new policies. The board has adopted a number of new policies that were cited as being necessary during the internal audit. By supporting the treasurer position, we have done a separation of duties that will help going forward. Also, we have the reserve plan, which we adopted at our last meeting and in the future will be posted on the website. So a lot of what the internal auditor was recommending, this stuff's already moving forward. The internal audit report will be posted on the website alongside Joe's corrective action plan for the public to view when they wish. So if anyone, Matt, Jocelyn, if you have something you want to add regarding the audit, if anyone has any questions about it. Madeline?
I don't see it attached to is it attached to the board doc?
It was attached. Yeah, it should be in there. Are you logged in? Just line N. Yeah, it's the last little thing under. Is it not there?
It's there.
Oh.
Maybe an access adjustment.
Access may not have been updated. Pass that down. She can have it.
There's a copy.
Oh.
It's just one. What? This is one. Yeah, that's it.
I'll give you a minute to look it over if you want, but it's exciting stuff. Joe, did you have anything to add regarding the internal audit response?
Well, I would like to echo the facts that we are addressing the changes that are recommended and the items like the reserve plan and everything has already been done. You will have a corrective action plan to adopt at your next board meeting. It just wasn't ready to be included at this meeting due to the other activities that we have going on at the moment.
Courtney? I have a quick question about the high schools. If a high school student switches from one to the other, how do you handle tuition for that? Is there ever a chance that you get billed for both schools?
No, they prorate.
If they switched mid-year, they would prorate the tuition and you'd get bills for both, yes. From the district's perspective, it's just a difference in rates, and what if they chose a different school, we just pay the other one. That's all.
And I appreciate your careful attention to those bills to make sure that they're accurate, especially if people go to private school, which then doesn't charge us anything. So. Any questions on the internal? You can keep that copy. Yeah. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and move to a vote on our new business as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. We have now reached the public comment section. I'm not going to read the public comment disclaimer as we do not have anyone with us this evening at all. So, or signed up for public comment. Unless you wish to. All right, so if that's all right, I'm going to bypass that and move on to board member comment and other discussion. And with the new year, we'll begin at the top of the alphabet. Jocelyn, do you have any comment this evening?
No comment.
Okay. David, do you have any comments this evening? Pick up the microphone if you're going to speak.
I'm excited about the prospect of this school-wide committee on curriculum and technology, and just a reminder that I'm looking forward to it and hope that we'll be able to begin that as the school year begins.
David, our new Director of Technology and Innovation, is settling in nicely, and he will be ready to start with that committee in the fall, and he's looking forward to it as well. So we will, more information shortly.
And for the rest of the board, that's a building level committee that we will be starting for, or bringing back. We've had a curriculum committee for some time. Of course, last year was not the year, perhaps, to get parents and staff together at school. All right. Madeline?
Just a question about the forest again. I know this question comes up every couple of years now that we have the environmental scientists and we have construction going on, which would be an ideal time to use the forest and outdoor space. Any immediate plans on that?
Yeah. Madeline, I can tell you those plans are in the works. Mike Sammartano, Allison Emig, and Rachel Arbor have already been communicating. Rachel is not officially moved to New York, but they're communicating virtually and starting to make very exciting plans. And we absolutely, the environmental education will be a K-8 initiative. And we fully intend to have our children outdoors in the forest and other opportunities throughout our area, and there are many with the Audubon Society out on the Hudson River, but also certainly the forest. So curriculum planning is happening. It'll continue throughout the summer, and we'll give more detail, right before the opening of school, we'll have more detail about what the plan is.
Courtney?
Wait, may I just ask a question related to forest?
Sure.
Fine. That's exciting to imagine that we will have more opportunities to be up there. And I've spoken with a lot of faculty, and one of the biggest concerns about going up there is that there's no restroom facilities. And so I think that it's something that we could explore as a district, what could be built or brought in that would actually incentivize the teachers to go there and not worry about their students needing such a thing for a longer field trip. I know that it's a capital cost in a sense, right? You're installing something, but and I know we've spoken a little bit about it, but I think it's something that we'll think about if we start to use the forest more.
Jocelyn, you are 100% correct. That is one of the main concerns that staff has, is having porta potties or some type of even whether it's permanent or something temporary that we have. Joe and I have not researched it, but that is on our list of priorities, and we will circle back to the board with some potential solutions. Because that has come up over and over. You're 100% correct, and if we're going to have staff and students out there, they do need a restroom facility.
Courtney. Right. I had something else. Just wanted to say I really enjoyed the conversation, actually, about the EV stations. Not to bring it back up. Every time I had a question, you guys all got there first. So I just sat and listened. I'm on both sides. But just a reminder that we're going to have a lovely day together this coming Saturday for our retreat. And if you haven't, please fill out your self-eval, the board self-eval. Ideally, I would really appreciate it if it got to me by Friday morning so that I could have a really fun Friday night compiling all of the information and answers for us to discuss on Saturday. And if you need the link again, just let me know. Or if you have any trouble with it.
Thank you for that reminder. Kent?
Just following up on the forest and being outside and all that, is there any thought to bringing back tents and some of the outdoor education that happened last year with COVID this year as well? I think the children, at least my experience, benefited from spending more time outside, even if it wasn't in the forest. They're in tents, they're not in classrooms. And obviously still there's going to be still a lot of stress and tension about mask, no mask, more time outside the better. Is that been discussed? Is that in the plans for this year?
Ken, we haven't decided. As you probably know, we rented the tents, and there was a significant cost to that, but they were used. And I have to tell you, a lot of the faculty plans to continue teaching outdoors, even when the building is 100% complete. Mr. Young, for example, he said he will always be delivering a portion or a percentage of his art lessons outdoors because there were just so many benefits to it. So that will happen and that will continue, I think, well into the future. The tents, I think, is something that we need to circle back and consider, and we would let the board know there is an expense. But I think if they're going to be utilized, then it would be money well spent once again. So we will get back to you on that. Thank you.
Matt?
Just want to say welcome back to Madeline, and excited to, I know you were already on the board, but I feel like now you're back on the board after an odd hiatus, so welcome back. Very excited to have you.
Thank you. It's an honor to serve with all of you, and to the community for the support also. I was a little bit shocked by it, and to work with the administration, it's been great. It's a first time working with the board, so I'm looking forward for the next 3 years. You can jump in if you want.
I have one more thing to say, which is that my sources tell me that the digital self-evaluation form is the product of a recent GUFS graduate, Ms. Lorelei McCarthy, and I think that we should extend our gratitude to Lorelei for this work.
I'll let her know she's babysitting my kids right now.
She likes the credit.
Okay, I'm up. I want to thank Joe and Carl. I realize as we're going through some of these things that basically we're giving you a bunch of research projects. So thank you so much for digging into this and looking at the costs associated with things like porta potties, maybe composting toilets that might be used, things like that. And I would encourage you to also reach out to some of our other local organizations. I know, for example, the Scouts, as they are now called, did a lot of work on the cabin that is in the woods as part of one young man's Eagle project. So there could be opportunities there to have some of our youth involved in helping build out some of the aspects of the school that we will continue to use. They've also contributed to, of course, the benches at South Redoubt, and then the stage, which was used a lot during last year's COVID experience in the in the courtyard, was another Eagle Scout project. So perhaps there we could find some very affordable help with these projects. And with that, that's my only, and welcome back, Madeline. That's my only comment. Anybody else have any questions, comments, thoughts as we move and board discussion? Okay, great. Now we are going to move into executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby enters into executive session for the purpose of discussing the school history of particular students in accordance with their FERPA rights and to discuss matters made exempt by FERPA. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right. Nays? Abstentions? Okay. And we will adjourn the meeting without taking further action. All right. First meeting of the year done. Woo-hoo.